This is obviously welcome news. It's welcome news for North America. It's welcome news for the markets, obviously, this morning. But the president, I'm sure, will declare victory on a disaster that he almost, put in place. Taking our neighbors to the brink of economic disaster to push forward a trade agreement, I think, is uncalled for and reprehensible. And what we'll see here, and some of the reads that I got overnight, 2/3 of this agreement is essentially going back to TPP. So all they did was take so much of the language in TPP and implement it here. And so as it pertains to Canada, this is good news economically, but there's going to be work to do to repair this relationship.
Matt, what about that warning from the IMF that all of this is going to hurt the global economy now that we're actually seeing threats materialize into tariffs? Even though we have this new deal between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, there's still some uncertainty over now U.S.-Japan talks that are starting, U.S.-Europe talks, and of course, China, which it's unclear whether we're even talking to them at this point.
Yeah, the IMF is right, and so is the ambassador. You need to take into consideration the enormous damage Donald Trump did in how he managed this NAFTA renegotiation. The threats of the steel and aluminum tariffs, which are severely violative of WTO rules in a way we've never seen before, undermine the whole global trading system and threaten the long-term national security interests and the economic interests of the United States. At the same time, what did he get? Well, he got a large number of small updates, most of which were in the TPP agreement, which Trump pulled out of. He got us back to a small increased access in the Canadian dairy market, almost all of which was in the TPP he pulled out of. At the end of the day, there's no reason for Congress not to approve this, but the damage done to get here was not worth it, and most of it was really trying to come back from our loss as a consequence of pulling out of TPP.
Ambassador, I wonder if you can give us some more on that. It seems you're saying that the damage done here, again, is not worth it. What would it have taken, I guess, to be worth it as you look through the details of this agreement? And what are the downsides in what you perceive as being a damaged relationship going forward, whether it has to do with trade or other things that we might need Canada's backing on?
So the U.S.-Canada relationship, multi-hundred-year relationship in which we are with each other through thick and thin. And so trade is one component of that. Everybody knows the Canadians were there taking our diplomats out of Iran during the Iran hostage crisis, or helping diverted flights in 9/11, or there with us in Afghanistan. They're there with us in NATO and NORAD and so many other ways. And so when the president basically used his language and style, and then the 232 tariffs on steel and aluminum on the basis of national security interests for the United States against Canada, I think many Canadians were shocked, surprised, disappointed. And, trust and relationships take a long time to build, but they very quickly can be disrupted and harmed. And so I think long after the ink is dry on this deal, we're going to be working to repair some of the damage that the president and his team did, calling for a special place in hell for the prime minister. Really, seriously, that's the kind of language that is so wrong and so harmful. And the president looks at these relationships on a transactional basis, and our relationship with Canada in particular is so much deeper than that.
Matt, at the same time, there are others who say that this bilateral strategy worked in this case and connotes the way forward regarding China is the right way, especially if you can bring Canada and Mexico and maybe Japan and the EU and confront China with the united front, something we have not been able to do yet. Is that possible?
A couple things there. First of all, the bilateral did not work. We had far more leverage over Canada and Mexico in the TPP negotiations, which was multilateral 12 countries, than we did in the trilateral. I was in the TPP talks with Mexico and Canada. I can tell you that's true. Second of all, China is a different case. Unlike Canada and Mexico, which have very, very high rates of compliance with their trade obligations to the United States, as does Europe and Japan and South Korea, China really has been violating trade agreement obligations to the United States for 16 years. So we have a different situation with China, but I think Trump mismanaged that as well. It was legitimate to retaliate and confront China, but not to go outside the World Trade Organization's retaliation system. That opened the door to retaliation, to our retaliation, and put us in a downward spiral that I don't think the two countries are going to get out of until after President Trump is out of office.